Hello and welcome to the Gentry and Seth show. We missed the Gentry and Seth show last week because we just figured they just beat LSU, no big deal, and the next game against Tennessee is going to be a blowout, no big deal. You know, there was really no point in doing a show, was there, Gentry?
Yeah, lots happened, I guess, since we last checked in with you. A little bit different look to the offense, definitely. And they haven't lost a game since our last.
But does it feel like it? To some people, they skated by and they beat a team everyone expected them to beat pretty handily, but they lost. Well, we know they're going to get Michael Bennett back, and they're aiming for the Florida game, so that's good. But Justin Scott Wesley gone, Keith Marshall gone, Todd Gurley probably not by this game for Missouri. Trey Matthews, even the punter. It's comical. Let's get into that right away, Gentry, and talk big picture. Does all this revise expectations you have for this team?
No, but I didn't have that high expectations to begin with. I know
you had them 4-8, so they're
Well, I mean, no, I just think that the people looking at this as a team that could win the East and could challenge for the SEC championship and could maybe do a little more than that. And I was kind of the same way. I think most people were kind of holding their breath to see what they did with those first four games. You get through that gauntlet, which Georgia did, and they only lost one game, which didn't kill those.
And they lost. If you're going to lose one of those three, they lost the one to lose.
So I think the expectations are get shaped by that. The fact that they won those games. Now you're talking these injuries. Okay, maybe it hurts them. I don't think Scott Wesley is a killer. I think he was having a really good year, and he was a very productive receiver and a good player for this team. But Keith Marshall is the one that I think really hurts.
They're still, despite everything, still pretty. Well, they're not deep anymore at receiver, but they were deep enough to absorb. Reggie Davis, for instance, can take a lot of what Justin Scott Wesley was doing. But like you said, they got to get Gurley back, and then when they get Gurley back, J.J. Green still is not Keith Marshall.
And what are you going to get Gurley back at? I mean, is he going to be 100%? I mean, that's not an easy injury he's coming back from. And he's a really tough kid, and I think if it was up to him, he would have played Saturday.
Yeah.
But that's not smart, and I actually do think Georgia is being smart with him and not rushing it back. And I think, maybe he's back for Vandy. That could happen. But
then you got to buy. Then you got Florida.
You need him for Florida.
Yeah.
You need Michael Bennett for Florida.
But the thing is, Gentry, these next two games are just not. They're not gimmies. I mean, the line being 10 from Missouri strikes so many people as.
I think this game
was
scary as hell. I thought this game was scary as hell all along. And the reason
you can say hell.
and
just don't go any further.
And the reason is because of Missouri's offense and the fact Georgia's defense has not played very well this year.
Yeah, that's the thing, Gentry, is you look at Georgia's offense and say, all right, you can still get by even without Gurley, which we don't know he's going to be out, but right now you have to assume it. But with Murray and Chris Conley still around, and the O-line has been playing very well. They have to continue playing that way. But you look at the offense and you say what they did against Tennessee. Missouri's not very good on defense. You can still put up points. But, boy, Missouri comes in with that spread. And here's the one that could be the killer. They come in with a dual-threat quarterback. If James Franklin can run on Georgia's defense.
And Connor Shaw did some of that, but Taj Boyd never really did. And I think Franklin, just this offense.
Boyd didn't need to.
They speed you up. They're going to move the ball. Missouri's the kind of team that they were hit so hard by injuries last year that I think you can kind of throw out how bad they struggled,
including
down the stretch. Yeah. Georgia was one of the teams that did get a Missouri at full force for the most part.
Georgia did not. People forget Georgia did not have its full force. They did not have Alec Ogletree or Sanders
Malcolm
Cummings.
Mitchell was playing cornerback in that game.
Malcolm Mitchell was playing cornerback. They did not have Alec Ogletree, Sanders Cummings, Bakari Randall.
Right. So
But they also, this game, do not have those players or Malcolm Mitchell or Jarvis Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of points. I actually don't think Georgia's offense is going to take as big a hit as I think a lot of people are thinking, so long as number 11 is your quarterback and the offensive line isn't hit.
Well, the key is the O-line. Let's delve into that. Not too long, but look, we were sitting here after the Clemson game talking about, God, this line, when is it going to get better? Well, it did, like the very next week. And it was great against LSU. And it did the job against Tennessee. I think they've given up, 3 sacks since the Clemson game. and they gave up 4 in that Clemson game. How confident are you that this O-line has turned it around? And we're seeing lately the O-line as it's going to be the rest of the year.
I say the same I've said all along, which is they know what they're doing, they know where to be, they're a very smart bunch, they play well together, but they're not physically overpowering.
Right.
And if they're not playing well, they are susceptible against any defense they play.
Yes.
But if they are playing well, they can.
And that's
they can
what
do
Mark
some good
Richt
things.
says. Yeah.
And it's because they just can't line up and match people.
Yeah.
They don't have that kind of line. And I think that, but yeah, I think there's no way the offense, you don't have numbers like Georgia has if the offensive line has not been playing pretty well.
Right. And it's been surprising. It's been really surprising.
And their numbers still, I mean, against Tennessee, J.J. Green ran for 120-something yards.
He had some good holes, but also Quavon Hicks, the lead blocker on a few of those, just really impressive. But the thing with Quavon is that he'll have a great block, and then the next play he won't. That's why he and Merritt Hall are still going in and out. It's, but you still, now we can transition to the defense. You still feel like this offense doesn't have much margin for error. You still feel like until this defense shows it can do, it can at least be mediocre. This was or average. Mediocre is a bad word. This is what I was saying coming into the year, and I think you were too. This defense just needs to be decent. This defense just needs to be average because this offense is going to be really good. Well, the offense has been really good. The defense has not been decent. And they're kind of, at this point, lucky to be 4-1.
It is hard to have confidence in a group that can't get a stop when it needs it.
Right.
And it's frustrating for the guys out there. It's frustrating for the whole team because when you, like say, Rick has said numerous, when you get a team 3rd and 10, 3rd and 22, you got to make that stop, and they're just not doing it. And what hasn't been mentioned a whole lot is, to me,
now mention it.
To me, it's similar to 2010 because if you remember, that team was awful on 3rd down.
Yeah.
And I think it's somewhat the same. It's guys who aren't used to the system a little bit, but though I think everybody was going to say give them 4 games, but this last Tennessee game, they needed to play a little better than they did. That Tennessee offense was not very good.
That's why, that's why I kind of, a few feet from where we're standing, I wouldn't say I grilled Grantham, but I started asking some, little harder, asking him for some state of the defense kind of questions because, the first 4 were not, you don't jump off of considering the opponent, considering the youth, but against Tennessee, it was Justin Worley was looking like a pretty good SEC quarterback by the end of the game there. And that can't happen.
And my thought on the defense is that they don't force the issue. They kind of sit back, and what happens, and you don't get turnovers when that happens, but you also allow another quarterback and the other team to get really confident and comfortable in what they're doing. That's what Worley did. He played a lot better as the game went on. He started making throws because he knew he'd have time to do it and have the receivers open.
You make a great point about they're not forcing the issue. You can just tell by watching the game film just how slow they seem.
They're not slow players.
No, they're not. And they're getting actually faster to the ball, but unfortunately the ball has already been completed for a long first down a lot of the times. They're just not around the ball very much.
Thinking too much, not reacting, not eye control. I think there's a lot of reasons.
I think there's got to be a little bit more blitzing on these 3rd and longs. If I'm Grantham, I'm selling out to something. I know that on that 3rd and 22, they only had a 3-man rush. I'm talking about against LSU. They only had a 3-man rush, and they still got.
And
they've
really
down.
only done that.
But that's taking that aside. I think they're splitting the difference a little bit too much on these 3rd and longs. I think there's been some times where they blitz one guy, but everyone hangs back in zone coverage or something. I say go all out one way. Go all out, in some sort of pass coverage, or send 2 or 3 guys. And there were some plays against Tennessee where they did do that and they had success.
There have been plays this season where it's just, and I think Grantham would agree. He calls it that way. Mm-hmm. I think he has been trying to bring pressure to protect the coverage a little bit, but it's just very difficult when you have situations. They get pretty exotic on some of these 3rd down calls when you see where guys are lined up. Yeah, they'll be in one position or another, and so you've got a guy who normally plays outside linebacker who's lined up inside. Mm-hmm. Okay, well he's not used to that. He's got to process and get. And it took the guys on last year's defense a good year before they really got it down. About midway through that 2011 season. And it's not easy, and I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know if you dial it back a little bit and just say...
Yeah, I mean, there'll be some guys like Amarlo Herrera will say it can't be simplified anymore, but Amarlo's been in the program for 3 years. I mean, I think if you gave sodium pentothal to some of these freshmen, they'd say, we're still really confused out there.
Well, and they're all terrified to make a mistake, and that's understandable. I mean, you're a freshman, you're going into 100,000 seat stadiums, and also I'll say for Tennessee, and I mean, I think Georgia fans have responded as if Georgia did this against Southwest, whatever Tech. Look, that's Neyland Stadium. That's a very loud place, and Georgia had control of that thing for a good
into the third quarter, up 17-3.
It was quiet. People were leaving at halftime.
They were at the 18 of Tennessee, and then
as soon as Marshall Morgan hits that upright, boom! And it's like you flip a switch, and all of a sudden that place goes crazy, and then you have the block punt, and it's a tight end. So it wasn't just the defense. The defense actually. And here's what's frustrating. I think the D line has been better this year. I really do.
Better against the run on some more obvious. I'm not. I mean, I agree, but it's been more obvious running downs. I'm not sure their pressure on some of the third downs has been adequate enough. It's been both. It's been the pressure and it's been the pass coverage itself on these third downs. But frankly, considering the expectations coming in, they should be. I think
a lot of the pressure they're getting is coming.
Yeah. Well, Ray Drew for one. Jordan Jenkins only has the one sack. Leonard Floyd's, there's that 4, but he's, the thing about Floyd has been a little hit or miss.
Travis Jones was a good player.
Yeah, it just, and we need to wrap up here, but I just get back to a conversation I had with one of the staffers here before the season started. That was watching some of the practices and saying, defense, we just don't have an Ogletree or a Jones flying around out there. And you know what? Maybe someday that will be Josh Harvey Clemens or Jordan Jenkins
he'd be the one I'd say.
Or even Trey Matthews. But right now they don't have that guy flying, and I mean lateral. There'll be some plays where you'll see a Floyd rush in there, even a Jordan Jenkins. But right now, if a ball gets thrown to one sideline, no Georgia player is racing to stop him before there's a significant gain.
Well, and I think again it's just an inexperienced thing and a fear of making mistakes why these guys aren't playing as fast. And there's something to be said for if you're going to make a mistake, make it fast. Play really good. And there have been plays they do that.
I think the light's going to go on with this defense. The question is whether it'll go on too late, whether it's going to cost them a game or not.
And this might be
It could be Saturday. It could be at Vanderbilt. I think with the exception of maybe Kentucky and App State here in Sanford, every other game because of the offensive injuries and until the defense gets its stuff together, every other game becomes, Georgia's favored, but...
Well, we've talked a lot here, but just real quick thoughts on Saturday's game. I don't know what really to make of Missouri because I don't think they've played the best competition yet. But at the same time, that offense is legit. It was legit last year. They have a good scheme. They know what they're doing. They have an experienced quarterback.
Senior quarterback.
And
Dorial Greenbacker was the #1 prospect in America 2 years ago.
And I think, but here's the thing is their defense statistically is awful. And I think that Georgia will be able to move the ball and score points too, no matter who's out there. So, take that over, kids.
Yeah,
take that over.
What is the over? Have you seen it?
It's not as high as you think. I think it's in the 60s.
Take the over. I'd say also pick Georgia, but I'm not sure they'll cover. 10 points is a lot to me.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So there you go, boys and girls. We'll see you next week to discuss Vanderbilt.